Can we talk about the finale for a second?
Oh, wow, can we?
Well, I'm going to make the executive decision that we shall.
The legal dispute involving Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively has sparked widespread online discussion, particularly around subpoenas, corporate entities, and standard legal procedures in civil litigation. As the case has unfolded, social media has been filled with varying claims and interpretations about the strategies used by both sides, especially regarding how information is requested and handled during the discovery process. Like many high-profile lawsuits involving public figures, the proceedings have drawn intense scrutiny, with audiences closely tracking filings, responses, and commentary. Part of the discussion has centered on a September 2024 court filing in New York involving a case titled Van Zandt Inc. v. John Doe's 1-10. In civil litigation, the use of John Doe defendants is a common legal mechanism when certain individuals have not yet been publicly identified or are included as placeholders. While this type of filing is standard, its purpose and scope have been widely debated online, often with differing interpretations. As is typical in such cases, the details and intent are expected to become clearer as the legal process continues. Through formal disclosures in court proceedings, attention has also turned to Van Zandt Inc., the corporate entity named in the filing. Public records in civil cases often include information about business structures, registered agents, and addresses, which can sometimes be interpreted differently depending on context. This has led to ongoing analysis and speculation about the relationships between the parties involved. Additionally, some commentators have noted the company's apparent period of inactivity prior to appearing in recent filings, a situation not uncommon for business entities that may remain dormant before being used in specific legal contexts. Further online investigation into publicly available corporate and court records has fueled discussion about the origins and role of Van Zandt Inc. within the case. As with many legal matters at an early stage, especially those involving anonymous parties or lesser-known entities, interpretations can vary widely until clarified by evidence and formal court review. While some have concluded that the case is directly connected to Blake Lively, the full context and implications remain subject to the ongoing legal process, which will ultimately determine the relevance of each party and entity involved. The lawsuit has also drawn significant online attention for the way it is structured, particularly its references to unnamed defendants and broadly defined allegations. In civil litigation, it is not unusual for parties to be listed as John Does when identities are not yet formally established or when a case is still in its early stages. While this is a recognized legal mechanism, it can lead to confusion or differing interpretations, especially when documents circulate publicly without full context. As cases move forward, courts typically require clearer identification of parties, more detailed claims, and supporting evidence to properly define the scope of the proceedings. At the same time, online discussions have questioned this approach, with some commentators arguing that lawsuits are generally filed against known individuals unless there is a specific reason to keep identities undisclosed. This tension between standard legal practice and public perception has fueled ongoing debate about the intent behind the filing. Much of the conversation has also focused on the role of discovery and subpoenas, particularly in relation to Van Zandt Inc. In civil cases, discovery allows parties to request relevant documents and communications, subject to court approval and legal limits. Subpoenas are a routine part of this process and may be directed at third parties if their information is considered relevant. However, because these procedures can be complex and vary depending on jurisdiction, they are often interpreted differently by observers, especially when details emerge through social media. Rather than formal legal explanations, comments from legal representatives have added another layer to the discussion. Brian Friedman, speaking publicly, suggested that the approach might be seen as an attempt to obtain documents indirectly rather than through more transparent procedural steps. Meanwhile, lawyers connected to Blake Lively have also addressed aspects of the case, contributing to competing narratives about the strategy being used. Further attention has been given to subpoenas reportedly issued to individuals connected to Team Baldoni's professional circle. As is typical in litigation, such subpoenas may seek documents or communications deemed relevant by the court, and recipients are generally required to respond in accordance with legal procedures. Still, the scope and specificity of these requests have sparked debate online, some viewing them as narrowly targeted and others interpreting them as part of a broader strategy. Ultimately, the appropriateness and intent of these subpoenas are matters for judicial review within the legal process. Discussion has also extended to Van Zandt Inc.'s corporate details, including its reported inactivity and connections to individuals within the broader professional network. Some observers have pointed to shared addresses, overlapping legal representations, and business affiliations as potential indicators of deeper links, particularly in relation to Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. However, in industries like entertainment and public relations, overlapping professional relationships are not uncommon, and such connections do not necessarily imply legal relevance without supporting evidence. As the filings and subpoenas continue to circulate, speculation has expanded to include broader theories about legal strategy, including claims that the case could resemble what some describe as a straw lawsuit, a concept occasionally referenced in discussions of celebrity litigation. These interpretations remain unverified and reflect public speculation rather than established legal findings. Overall, while online commentary continues to analyze relationships, motives, and procedural choices, the actual significance of each element, whether subpoenas, corporate entities, or professional connections, will ultimately be determined through formal court review, evidentiary standards, and the structured progression of the legal process in high-profile disputes. Legal actions are often interpreted through competing narratives, particularly when multiple parties with overlapping professional networks are involved. Without confirmed evidence presented in court, however, these interpretations remain speculative. The actual role of any individual is ultimately determined through the formal legal process, including discovery, evidentiary review, and judicial evaluation. For example, some online commentators have argued that if individuals such as Stephanie Jones were truly uninvolved, they likely would have challenged any legal action directed at them, though such claims remain matters of opinion rather than established fact. As the case has developed, discussions online have attempted to piece together the sequence of filings, subpoenas, and references to corporate entities like Van Zandt Inc. Some observers interpret these elements as part of a coordinated narrative, while others point out that civil litigation often involves multiple procedural steps that can appear complex or fast-moving when viewed from the outside. In disputes involving public figures such as Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, timelines and filings are frequently scrutinized in detail, but conclusions about intent or strategy are ultimately determined by the court through formal legal analysis. Questions have also been raised about the scope of subpoenas, such as why certain individuals were included, while others were not. In practice, the selection of subpoena recipients depends on legal strategy, relevance, and what a court permits during discovery. As a result, outside observers may interpret these decisions in different ways. Even though they are governed by procedural rules and subject to judicial oversight, attention has also been given to the timing of filings involving Van Zandt Inc. and related legal activity. In civil litigation, cases and motions may be amended, paused, dismissed, or refiled for a range of procedural or strategic reasons. When multiple developments occur within a short period, they can appear unusual or raise questions among observers. However, legal significance of such timing is determined through official court records and explanations rather than speculation. Online commentary has also explored broader concerns about the legitimacy or intent of certain filings, sometimes referencing concepts like procedural misuse or abuse of process. While these are recognized legal arguments, they require formal judicial determination based on evidence and legal standards. Courts, not public opinion, decide whether any filing meets the required thresholds for validity. Additional discussion has focused on subpoenas related to materials such as phone records and how they intersect with confidentiality agreements or non-disclosure obligations common in the entertainment industry. In such cases, courts play a central role in deciding how confidential information may be disclosed, is protected, or limited during discovery. These decisions involve balancing contractual privacy obligations with the need for relevant evidence. Finally, some commentary has examined procedural rules around notifications, specifically how and when individuals are informed that records are being requested. Subpoena processes generally include strict requirements for service and notice, which can vary by jurisdiction. Disputes over whether proper procedures were followed are typically resolved through formal motions and judicial review. Overall, while online discussions continue to analyze the details, relationships, and timing of events, the true meaning and relevance of these legal actions will be determined through the structured court process, guided by evidence, procedural rules, and judicial oversight rather than external interpretation. As a result, the specifics of how and when parties are informed in a legal matter are determined by the official court record and applicable rules of civil procedure, rather than outside interpretation. In online discussions, however, some commentators have gone further, suggesting that corporate entities, such as Van Zandt Inc., may have been used in ways intended to pressure or involve third parties. These claims remain speculative, as any determination about the purpose or legitimacy of a legal filing must come from the court. Based on evidence and legal standards, attention has also been directed toward how major media outlets report on ongoing legal disputes. In general, journalists rely on available court documents, filings, and sources at the time of publication. It's often updating their reporting as new information emerges. Because legal materials can enter the public record before full context is widely understood, early coverage may evolve significantly as additional facts are clarified through both reporting and the legal process. Related discussions have focused on how information from subpoenas and filings is presented in public. When excerpts from communications or documents become part of broader reporting, they are often summarized or condensed, which can lead to differing interpretations depending on the context provided. Disputes over framing and presentation are common in high-profile cases, but courts ultimately determine what evidence is relevant, admissible, and properly understood within the full legal context. Some observers have also examined the timing between filings, subpoenas, and media coverage, particularly instances where developments occur within a short time frame. In fast-moving cases, reporting can appear closely aligned with legal actions simply because information becomes available around the same time. This has led to speculation about sequencing and intent. Though journalists typically work with the information accessible at the time and refine their reporting as more details emerge, online commentary has further raised broader concerns about legal strategy, ethics, and the use of subpoenas in disputes involving public figures such as Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. Some have questioned whether certain actions are designed to pressure individuals, control narratives, or obtain information beyond what is appropriate. However, attorneys are bound by professional rules of conduct, and any allegations of misconduct or procedural abuse must be addressed through formal legal channels such as court motions or, where applicable, regulatory review, rather than public speculation. Discussion has also touched on individuals connected to the case, including public relations professionals like Stephanie Jones, particularly in relation to how information may have been shared or obtained. As with other aspects of the case, the relevance and legality of any such actions depend on what is established through admissible evidence and judicial review. Attorneys involved in the matter have indicated their intent to challenge various filings and procedural steps through the court system. This is typical in complex litigation, where both sides contest the scope and validity of discovery requests, subpoenas, and related actions. Courts play a central role in resolving these disputes by evaluating compliance with procedural rules and determining how the case should proceed. Some online commentary has characterized certain legal actions as attempts to gather information beyond permissible limits or to influence reputations. While such claims reflect public perception,